officially live streaming now.
Okay, everybody. Hello. Hello to
Hello and
the
welcome to
world.
hello world. Welcome to the Tin Bulls. This is a podcast um, called Mystic Cowboy. I'm Wesley Flowers with my co-host Christian Hellings, and
Hello, everybody.
we're going to go into our first visual appearance on screen here. We're flying by the seat of our pants.
Try to contain yourself, please. Please.
The excitement is
Quiet.
palpable.
Shh. Calm down, everybody. Calm down. This is going to be a long road we're on.
We are on a long journey, and So,
Yes.
how you been, man? Everything going okay?
Great. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Relishing in these last couple weeks of fantastic, beautiful weather and the surroundings, and trying to get the full extent of that, while knowing that the future is going to have a couple of its challenges, like most of life is, but we'll enjoy it while it's here. I mean, it's just pristine. It's a lot of like the start of the of the story we're going into, this pastoral land that we have some visuals up here that we'll be going through. The story and the art of this story come in different shapes and sizes. It's a very ancient story, and then as it got even put into art, it comes with a character, sometimes of an older gentleman or a childish, youngster. A juvenile would probably be the word I'd be looking for. And then sometimes it's a child, and the symbolism there we'll kind of maybe elaborate on a little bit. But it's in this kind of pastoral environment of, the possibilities of life are set as the stage is set, that the earth gives to our ambitions and endeavors. And that's kind of how we start. It feels much like this here today. It's just absolutely beautiful. But yet through the past, we're in this drought, if they want to call it that. I mean, they like to give words for things that are just life and nature doing its thing. And it can begin, it can continue, or it can end at its will. So it's beautiful here, but we have the summers coming, and the heat comes. So it gets you to appreciate how beautiful it is right now, and try to utilize those times, as when that the future may be bringing some challenges.
Well, and down here in the south, it is a beautiful, hot day, and we're about to get a little bit of a cooler weather. But yeah, the spring has been outstanding, and now where you are in California, you're getting the wonderful spring, the late spring.
Mm-hmm.
But the season's changing.
Yeah, the seasons they're coming. The summer's coming, and for a lot of people, it's lovely, and then for some, it brings challenges, like the winter does, and for others, while some people, it's a more temperate. So it's much like these stories that we're going through. We are, we're doing this live stream, but if you listen to the podcast, we've done other stories from the Middle East to some in the North American, and then some in the Far East. And we've been kind of going into how mysticism is kind of the theater for these different types of people, how these really kind of sacred, these sacred feelings, the sacred experiences that we have are put into these stories, and over time, and then they come to us, and how we can use the stories to unlock these kind of these seven notes that we'll see the young boy, or the child, I'd rather say the child, play, and while he's riding on this bull, to harmonize our lives and to feel that we have some belonging, that we're this separation that we feel, the competition that's adverse in our lives is really just a part of a bigger picture of life. So it's much like that.
Yeah, and for those that don't really know about our podcast, it's Mystic Cowboy, available, where you can get most podcasts, especially Spotify for sure. So shout out to our podcast, and yeah, I mean, taking us through the 10 Bulls story here, 10 Bulls of Zen. Uh, where do we begin? Should we look at some resources, or do you want to give us a
Yeah,
setup here, or what do you
yeah.
think?
As we were kind of going into a little bit ago, we have a story that from the Chinese to the Korean to the Japanese and much of the Asian area. The We have variations of kind of the same story. So we've talked about this many a time, that although we have this broad story of the hero, or the person, and in this case we're dealing with the person, what the human element, and this individual going through the trials and challenges of life. Person's very symbolic. The per or the fur, the P and the F are interchangeable. So that fur is, or that root of fire in our language. So the son of the fire, or the light. That's, where is this thing that we're given, the heaven, earth, and human, and it's going on its journey. So in this story, it's we have this searching, and we'll see in the first story, we see the child walking, and in this pastoral land, and we see a very we're using a kind of traditional art for this one, and so I'll elaborate on some, and it won't mix quite the same with some, because in some of the stories we have the child carrying this herb, or it's a food of source of some kind, and it's searching for this bull.
Yeah.
So we have the bull, and much like in our region, or I guess the region where I'm at, we could use the North American, the Mustang. So we have this wild animal that has a symbol, and this is this great technology that we've developed for humans over our lifespan. So we're playing with our symbolism once again. We've invented this perspective on life where we went from, for whatever we were doing, we developed numbers and letters, and then we put them together, and then we draw things, and they have a meaning, and then we tell our stories, and this is how we see our lives. And in this case, it's the bull symbolism of this wild animal that is difficult to tame, and that it's kind of like, we also, and then juxtapose that, we have this child, which is, or the adolescent, which is somewhat more developed than the animal in us. And what we need to do is basically this symbolism of betterment of life, to get better, to achieve a different state of being, a state where you're not going to fall to the bull's kind of whimsical nature, and you're going to rise. And the mind helps us get to this state of this connection with life in the way that humans see it.
And is there what's the meaning that you're taking away from seeing, here's the story of the 10 bulls, and the first shot of this child in the circle, all these come kind
Yeah,
of to us in a circle, walking the
yeah,
land. So it is a child and not an adult, and there's no bull.
yeah,
What are
yeah.
we, how does that
Okay.
play out?
Yeah. So it's kind of, I see in this version, we have the human in many of the stories, like even in the Odinic story, he in the Wagnerian, and Odin comes out of nowhere. And so we start, right? There's no, how did we get here? It's just human in this natural environment now, and it's on a search. It's probably, I think the child's carrying a stick or a cane. I mean,
Yep.
the staff. So the staff is kind of this will that we have to achieve or to find this connection with life, or to succeed in our venture. So we haven't refined anything as a sort. So we're kind of on we're thrown into this. It's still this idea of sort of alien to the natural environment. We're disoriented.
Mm-hmm.
And so we grab a stick to keep us safe. And so we're going to walk, and this is going to help us as we're starting our journey, since we don't seem to be able to go back to anything. We're just kind of in this environment. And in other stories, we see the child has like a branch of some sort of food or herb that it wants to give. And it's, the idea here is that we're searching for this energy, this kind of, this willful energy that can bring, it's unbridled. So it needs to have the yoke placed on this bull to be able to do our will. So we have an idea. We're not sure what it is just yet in this picture. So
very much the introduction.
Exactly. And very abstract. And just like our own lives, what do we want? We've discussed this in many of the podcasts. So who are we? What do we want? Where did we come from? Where are we going? So these directions of the cross come into play again. So we're kind of, it's not, we don't see here a distressful story.
Mm-hmm.
We just see it kind of an open, embryonic story of where he's going to go. And as we move to the second, we're going to start to see it kind of open up and start to develop.
Well, and quickly, I think we're sourcing this public domain from the Metropolitan, New York, the Met, and so anyone could check out their website and search for 10 Bulls, and you'll be able to find the same artwork. But here in the second page specifically is more texts. Is that just the story in its native language there? Nothing to actually for us.
It's going to be. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just saying, us English-speaking people. So we just move into the next frame here of the next circle, and just kind of take a deep dive on what is happening here.
Yeah, and they'll have, and you'll see, if you just put in the story, people have different renditions, and then we have we have this text, which is one of the more ancient texts of it, and then we have all of our professionals that are translating the text into something. And we're not gonna go into reading off the story. It's been done many a times. We're gonna try to delve into maybe. It's very abstract, even what it is, but there's been commentary on it, and
much like the Art of War, this is a kind of a brief read if you wanted to check it out. It's like
that'll take you 5 minutes,
and so here
and
we are,
a lifetime to learn.
Right. Multiple lifetimes.
Small. There you go.
As we look at the second circle here, frame 2, sort of. What do you take away from this? I mean, we have.
Well, now we start to kind of see this, in others. I'm not. I see the child's kind of inquisitive and looking, and in other renditions, we start to see the tracks of the bull. So now it's the curiosity. There's some semblance of the imagination coming, or this clue as to. This is the morsels. Okay, follow this path. The path is starting to come about, and we're we're looking to see what is this thing? I mean, the desires of our life, how do we fit them in to this greater kind of purpose that maybe is being suggested in this story? But I guess if we could, the roots of the story, which is what interests me about this, is that it's not much of the commentary. It's about this bridling of the desires into getting them into this, a way of living that doesn't bring the sorrow to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have this on this one end, this thing we carry, whether it be the staff or whether in others it's carrying this branch, this branch of hope that through our own actions we'll be able to succeed. And this faith in life and in nature, contrasted with this wild nature that the bull, as this child will come about it, and in some of the renditions, the bull has this kind of like in one the next one we would go to. These are kind of just abstract. They're just starting it out. So if we want to go to the next one, the bull comes into the picture, and
so moving
we
into
start to see.
number 3 here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and so we're also recording this for audio only, and if anyone needs to check out the visual component, you can find it on YouTube if you're listening only on Spotify here.
Yeah. So 3 is much the same as this 2. He's still kind of wandering and looking, and we come up to the 4th, which will be then you get the vision of the bull. But in others, it's about, we see these symbols of like the tree, and much like the evergreen tree, it's this, what's behind us has this everlasting quality, and we'll see later, and in others, and in other stories, that the tree being the doctrine of what the self, or this higher self, this insightful self can get. The bull kind of bridled into this way to direct its energy for where it wants to go. So now, as it's looking for it, it finally comes into some focus. It's kind of hidden, but it'll come into focus in that 4th frame.
Yeah. So as we've gone from it's kind of introductional, like you said, kind of child wandering, discovering, moving through. Now it kind of comes across some other land and water, and continues its quest through the 3rd frame, and then here in the 4th frame, is it sneaking up behind the bull? Do we feel like it's?
Yeah, I think it. When you've seen, these more fanciful kind of stories, when you see in, fantasy stories and movies, you're kind of coming up to this wild animal, almost like the unicorn. And we're even in the North American, we have this horse. So you're on this journey, and you need these devices. You're becoming the magician.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the staff, and then you need these other things to help you on this journey to succeed and to ultimately become this enlightened or insightful person, by learning through the process and surviving it. So now you're coming up to this bull, and it's free. There is somewhat of a contrast here that we could maybe look at, is that it's almost an ironic kind of way, is that where you start in this setting of nature and this wild animal, the wild animal's free. It's doing what it's in its nature. So what we're looking to do, I mean, traditionally, that can look as the darker side of life, and the desires and the whimsical nature needs to kind of be brought into some sort of direction.
Mm-hmm.
And this direction is towards this purpose. When maybe it could also, maybe it hasn't been looked at this way, is that what is the need for this? What is the need to change our ways to want to be better? Why do we need to be better? These are the challenging questions, because we work and work and work for what betterment?
Right.
And and we try our best, and our best then comes crashing down. So there's other lessons. While the bull is sitting and just living its life, it's doing what it's in its nature. And what was the thinking at this time? And to go, and in one setting, there's the bull, wild and free, is on one side with these clouds, kind of ominous clouds above it, and then there's the child sitting there underneath this kind of evergreen or this tree. And the tree, many times in Buddhism and in other ancient religions, and even today, is this thought that this binding yourself to the doctrine, and the tree giving you wisdom. And so we're trying to get ourselves in some sort, we have this idea that there's a path and a way of life that we need to find to acclimate ourselves. So now the bull comes. So now what is the child now has to lure the bull. In one story, it has this herb or whatever kind of food. It tries to lure the bull, and initially the bull's running in the opposite direction of the child, and it just kind of runs past it because it's whimsically going. There's nothing wrong with the bull. The bull's just being when we see the animals in our own lives that aren't farmed or domesticated, they're just they are what they are. And there's this sense that we in ourselves, like this bull is in us, like the great bull of the Taurian bull or the Apis bull of the Indic people. We need to bridle or yoke this thing inside of us in order to better our lives. And I think that's our basic of the story. So now the bull, after it gets lured close enough, or as it's going to find it, its main thing is, now in this one, we'll see in the next one, it has to bridle it by, well, I think lassoing the bull.
Yes.
So in this one, it lassos it. In others, it's using its own, which is a really ironic kind of way, I find, is that the bull's wild, and the child, who's at least one step above this animal nature, because it has this purity, but it still has this, this spiritual element, because the child's kind of this sense or the symbol of the spiritual nature, but it's still innocent. It doesn't have it's not damaged by old age, so they have it right at that innocence, but it has abilities, but it's not corrupted by too long of life. And what it's there, so it can lure this maybe lower nature and get them to get us to this kind of elevated state of life, which would be the older sage. I mean, that's what we're trying. In many of their stories, we see the elderly one with the long beard and very contemplative and very learned. So that's one of their values in life. So
where does the lassoing meet the wisdom?
Okay, so the ironic part is that we luring or trying to grab the very desire that will keep us, that we don't feel like we're a part of nature. We feel we need to be better than nature.
Sure.
And what I find when they're feeding it, it's like you're actually you're using the very desire to get it in line.
Well, like, here's a treat, like you're...
Yeah. So you're trying to get better than you are, but you want to be happy. So you don't just want to do what you want. You want this state where you can have happiness and have your work and have your life. The security always kind of underlies many of the stories in our lives. It's like, what is going to make you feel free? Because for something in us makes the wildness of nature makes us feel insecure.
Right.
At times we love it, but we feel like we have to temper. It's like, oh, that's and of course it gets turned into the evils, but it also gets turned into the great pleasures of life. We have them. As long as we feel that we're in an environment like this.
Yeah, domesticated
to
and
yeah, and to indulge in it. So as long as we know what we're, as long as we have everything together, then we go out on the weekends.
Yeah.
Saturday night, I let it go. I let it go, and I'm going to recover on Sunday. I'm back to work on Monday.
You got it's like the nature of the beast versus like the taming of the beast. You have these two elements that you're trying to, like, on one hand, isn't it beautiful? Again, I'm sure I've mentioned this in other episodes, but it always comes up when I start reflecting on that kind of thing. Is really thinking of like a George Carlin interview one time where he was just saying that like more than anything, what shocks him with humans is we want to go to nature. Not only does he have great, we're dumb and we could make fun of humans as a mass or whatever, but the idea of going to nature versus like, no, we are natural, we are within nature, and this is so clearly an oversight by how we view ourselves within the world, and as if society and humans are on this pedestal. So so in Circle, frame 5, we're taming, trying to tame the elements, and it's almost an untamable force.
Yes, absolutely. And the elements is a good word because we're dealing with all of these numbers. It's the 10 bulls, and these are our elements that we deal with in life. And the bull, of course, is this. That one force, that the dividing force. We've put onto this symbol of the bull. This, it can almost overwhelm you. The sheer size of a bull intimidates you. I remember being in Texas about 2 years ago and seeing the bull that this one farmer had, and he comes walking up to me, and you're just, okay, I'm going to do this. And he's like, he's good. He's not going to do anything.
Sure.
And
so
he's at least a ton. He's just a ton animal. And you're going, you just feel the force of that. And you go, okay, there's something that's in us that says we need to do something about that to feel secure. So now we get to, on one end, in some of the pictorial stories, which are a little bit more elaborate than this, the bull and the symbol of transforming this lower nature into a higher nature is symbolized by the black bull turning into this white bull. So right around this time, after the child is caught it, the nose begins to turn white. And that's really the time when he's putting the yoke on it, just like he's doing here with lassoing the bull. And we don't have the more highly elaborate symbolism of, as you see the white turning. But if you Google this story, you'll see other renditions of it. It's either a brown ox turning white, or it's a black ox turning white. And this is that sense of this lower nature and overcoming supposedly what is to our detriment. And really it's not. It's this idea of contrasting the negative part of our kind of uncontrolled, our whimsical, desired nature, to this reasonable way of the light is what solves this darker side. When in reality, it's still wanting to eliminate the darker half.
Right.
When we've talked about, we need to embrace this. And actually, as the story goes, there is a way of looking at it that you can embrace it, because it will turn out that the whole thing becomes one. And that's where we're kind of moving towards, is understanding that the whole thing is together. So, as he's bridling this, it's like the yoke, the mind now of the bull, the head of the bull, starting to, as he's pulling on this head, it's resisting. It doesn't want to be put into a certain direction. Doesn't want that. It's fighting it. I want to do what I want to do.
Yeah, there's resistance.
That's the old, yeah. There's the old kind of adolescent way of looking at this, where anybody that doesn't want to be in line with everyone is kind of they're the black sheep. They're doing. You're supposed to get in line,
Right.
and there's a purpose for your life. When maybe we should start challenging those notions, because you still, although this story has a very the message is there, but the message needs to be applied to your life. So as we're talking about this, these aren't wisdom stories without context. So I always implore the person to, the story is great, but when it's in its context, if you're following, another path, the path can just lead just as much to destruction and called in the name of right or justice as, it's supposed to be whimsical, and it turns into, a life of achievement. So it's not about drawing those lines. This one is there to kind of bring them all together and know that context is very important. Just like in the background of this story, you have the pine tree and we have the dark clouds, and then then the water symbolism that we're going to come into shortly is that these, like you said, we're moving with the elements, and their rightness and wrongness are not there. They're contextual. They're about what the story of your life is going at that time, and how to make the decision that's appropriate to that time in your life, and not letting outside sources determine it.
Yeah, and speaking of timing, this story is what, several centuries old, or do we know exactly?
Before written,
Okay.
Yeah.
So
they have this around the 12th century, but it's much older than that. It's much older. It's at least in the Buddhist range, and if the Taoist Buddhist story, and we're talking 600 BC and it's probably 1000 BC at least.
So maybe this from the Met, this thing we're looking at might be around that time period. But as far as the artwork here, but this is like a ancient hieroglyphic passing down of wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. Of symbolism.
Can you have hieroglyphics that aren't Egyptian, or other people, or is that just a term for?
I think it's just a term for the same thing as these beautiful writings of this Oriental piece. I would say the pictorial writings and hieroglyphics are so closely linked. I feel like it's shading rather than definition, where
Gotcha.
the writing that they've used. We see the hieroglyph. We don't really, people will say we've deciphered the hieroglyphics, but we really only know a portion of it, and have kind of, by analogy, just kind of put that translation together. And these people have been using this kind of language, pictorial language, which I've always been kind of envious of. I would have loved to have been able to do it. It's almost artwork every day if you're writing.
Yeah. And do we move to the next slide here, or the next circle?
Yeah, we do that. Yeah.
All right. So
because we're
jumping ahead here to, this is number 6 or number 5.
Yep. Yeah. So now that we've gotten a little bit past that, we're now to a point where the bulls become a little bit more docile. Now it's not. So our inner nature, this desired nature of or our ignorance, is starting to get filled now with this. Okay, now even after the bull's been fed, okay, so this higher nature is actually in my benefit. It's leading me, and I like where it's going. It feels, now I don't have to go search for food. It's giving me the food, or it's leading me along the way where I had to make my decisions. Now I'm starting to feel the path open. And so, although the yoke or the rope in this case is pulling, you'll see that like in the last one where there was a struggle and he's pulling, now the boy's kind of walking with the bull like we do with our dogs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's becoming more feeling that I feel safe under the conditions that we're in. So at this point, even in some of the other renditions, the bull now, the heart, where the white or has gone to near the heart. So now the mind and the heart, this shin, this heart mind kind of concept is now becoming connected. So now the bull is almost half. So it's now we're at the fifth. We're halfway there, and in that symbolism. So we've progressed this far. So we're in a state of potential balance. We've equalized both of our natures. So now we're willing. Now we could fall maybe to one point if in this view, or we can now still keep going. And now we have the potential of overcoming this lower nature. Now the darkness is in some of the renditions is still in this genital area, which is constantly been this lower nature is kind of that symbol of the dark, the ignorant, the misconstrued kind of way of living, the illusion of life.
Yeah, beginning to see, something change.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we see it now as a companion almost.
Yes, it's yeah. But it could, if you probably let it go, it could walk away from you. But
Yeah,
it's we're right in that position. We know it when we're like halfway in. It's that it's ambiguous. It's at that I'm ambivalent about things. I could go one way, I could go the other, and we're uh, it's just that equilibrium when we're at our lowest point and we're struggling through the things that we're trying to do, be a good person or to be a successful person. What we're doing is we've kind of gotten to that part of the journey where we feel like, okay, I may be able to get there, but I have to be diligent. This is the time to persevere. But right now we're there. So we're walking together. So the mind, the heart, the body is all walking together for now. And it's feeling that it has the ability to move forward. And now it can move to the next version of, or our next challenge. And we see in the next slide, the boy is now riding the bull. He's riding the bull, and he's playing on a flute. So now we're moving into a different dimension. It's a different kind of environment that we have here. It's much more stable. It's ethereal. You'll see in the background much of the ethereal nature is out there. And I believe in some of them, and even this one, they're walking along a stream. So now we get the water concept of this great water of the Tao, the great waters of life. So now we're closer to it, and we're closer to being in our own nature. The flowing of life is now, we have all of the elements kind of moving. We have this a very ethereal, we don't have anything really in the background. It's kind of this new state we're becoming in. We're starting to see the light, and moving along with it, and the body and the mind and the soul are moving together in harmony, which is really the key word probably for this one. It's being the great. That's like Shiva on its flute with the bull resting next to it, playing this magical flute, like in Mozart's magic flute and whatnot.
yeah, and I'm also curious of bringing in the flute and the story of that I've heard of evolution of how the arts kind of come as a luxury of we have our bellies full, so we're no longer only trying to sustain our having enough food or meat, berries, hunting, gathering. So now we're we have the luxury of hanging out by the fire. Now we're telling stories. Now we're starting
Mm-hmm.
to kind of find ourselves and find a societal kind of benefit to bringing our tribe together with the arts. And it's
Yeah.
interesting to me that you know the flute's not in the first one. You know the flute. You know, and I misspoke
Yeah.
earlier that this is actually now slide. You know, bull 7 or story 7 here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just the idea that it's 70-75% the way through. Here's the introduction of
Yeah.
uh, and they seem comfortable together for the first time. I mean, it's you can clearly
Yeah.
tell he's riding the bull.
Oh
Seems
yeah.
to be an element
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
peace. Music can be a very peaceful
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
addition to a life.
Yeah. And you even know that when we're playing in front of people, it's the dance. So now the ability to project this balance or this connection between this spirit and of course the music of the spheres and the magician and the great musician playing together. Now it's now the desires want to be a part of whatever's going on. So we have the spiritual nature, and then we have the mind or this higher nature that's not spiritual, but it's our best, it's our attributes, this great light of us of that humans are given to control or to direct the energies of this instinctual nature of the bull. So now we have this trinity doctrine kind of, okay, we're all together, and now we're walking along the stream. So now we have all four elements present here. We have the fire element of the music, we have the air element of the child, and the pure air. It's not this this lower kind of materialistic kind of concept of life. And then we have the bull, and it's riding the bull, which is the bull is that energy that we need, but yet it can get out of control. It's like when you're riding the stallion, the Mustang, and it doesn't want, and it bucks and it bucks, and you're fighting it and you're fighting it. So now we're over that, and then we walk along the stream of life. So we're getting closer to this kind of this crossing of all the elements, and we're getting to the point where what is the next level? Now we're pulling them together, and we get to that in the next slide, and which it changes our environment. Now we have just the bull's now gone in our next one.
Yep, getting to it here. Let's see. Yes. So
Yeah, and now it's the child or the person sitting under this and in a contemplative way, kind of under the shelter by the stream. And we've and now the sun, or the constellation. In some of the stories you'll see the bull now gets projected into the heavens. You've transformed your spiritual nature, and now the sun, so this hot, the heat of this lower nature now becomes the illumined nature. Now things are open up. It could also be the moon is another symbolism of this, because you see the moon when it's conjunct with the sign, it becomes radiant, and the power of that constellation now comes upon you. So now he's now the child sitting there, of course, once again by the water. So now we're closer. We've integrated that, and it's now become more of a shelter. The bull's now more like this veranda thing that we have there, as we've utilized its material nature to now give us this security that we need. And now we have, like you said, with music, we have the luxury of just looking at the earth.
Speaking of the beasts,
Speaking of these wild animals, my niece is about to bite somebody's head off. No, she's doing you good girl. So we're now we've lost this. This lower nature is kind of gone, and in others, you'll see the renditions about around this time. The bull goes into the heavens. It's in the clouds now. It's been transformed into this. It can float, and it almost looks like it has this weird look on its face. As I was saying, that this bull in other renditions gets into the clouds,
In
and
the
it's
heavens.
like, yeah, it's on this cloud, and then the child's somewhere floating too, but the bull's kind of, I'm not real sure about where I'm at, because it's out of its nature. It's like, I'm an earthly, just like the Taurian bull. It's the bull of this kind of this natural force of life that is there, and it sometimes it goes against us, and sometimes it works for us. But our interaction with it, it's always mysterious. It doesn't seem to be it's not something we can calculate. And we in this kind of idea, we're working towards trying to take the calculations out of it. And I think that's what in the root of security is. I don't want any problems. I want to go out and I want to do what I want to do, even though that if you did want to do that and you didn't have the risks of what life seems to give you, there wouldn't be any reason to do it. You would be over it. You know, we want to accomplish things, but we don't want to go through the journey. We just want the accomplishments. Or some people just don't do it, and then they're still unhappy because they're not actually doing what's in their nature. So it's kind of like, this is the reward also that the child's here, and it has this reward of this symbiosis.
Some rest again.
Yeah, it's great, because right after the music, as we've been talking, we have music doesn't exist, or sound doesn't exist without silence. So now this is like the silence after the sound, after the struggle, and we're at that seventh. We're in that seventh layer, which has always been symbolized by the law. A lot of times we'll see the in other renditions, the child or the person sitting under a tree, and the tree being, of course, that symbol of the doctrine, and giving that Trinitarian doctrine. So to attach yourself to the Trinity, and then this is that fourth. You're the fourth element. You're the bull. You're the earth element binding itself to this fire, water, air element. These ethereal elements, as you being the creature, the person. So you're the son of this fire, which even in here the sun comes out, and now you're illuminated. You're getting there. You're not quite there, but you're about to get there. And we'll see as it moves to the next slide, we now have this, the oblivion kind of symbol of the Zen.
And this is very fascinating to me to see. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, here's the Zen of the bull, and what a interesting idea. All of a sudden, after we've been very descriptive previously, and just to go into a nothingness, or a complete state of absence or bliss, or
Sunyata, the nothingness.
Bless you. Yeah.
Yes. Thank Gesundheit. This nothingness, this, where we were just previously, we've overcome adversity, because adversity isn't there anymore. We're not as we were before, struggling with the bull. We're strong under this adversity because we think life is separate. We're battling, trying to control it. Then we get to the previous picture, and now we're over it, because problems aren't problems. That's just life. As in John said, there's no problems. There's just solutions.
This too shall pass.
It's that, right? This too, yes. And it's that cavalier kind of, now you're even more like nature, where you're more one with it, and you see the divisiveness that you felt really may not be there. You're over that, and now you're passing into the everlastingness, this nothingness of this Zen kind of oblivion, where nothing has been annihilated. It's just the feeling that everything is, that you are here. This is life. I mean, to try to put words is always going to be a difficult thing to do in this situation, because this nothingness is the ultimate reality, but it's also, it's the voice of silence. This is that rest that you said. It's now complete, where we were, where the sound, the vibration, and the seventh, where he's sitting there, that calm vibration after the ringing, is now completely gone. Now we're sitting here in the stillness of life, and this is our Zen. This is where we can now, we're at that level of the eighth sphere.
And you mentioned, 8, and there's the octave repeats in a way. Thinking back to just musical aspects. It's kind of a cool, White Album nothingness to the
yes.
Also, their 8th album. No, I'm not sure if that's true. We'll look that up.
We'll look that up. But also, 50 years ago today, John Lennon released Imagine, and this was that day. I watched the video this morning, woke up to it, and it was the White Room, and his his movement with this kind of Zen idea, this Buddhistic idea, and purity, and he had played with these concepts, which are very indicative in the song. This achievement of Imagine is kind of the shunyata, or the sunyata of Zen. It's the purity of potentiality. This ability without any movement. It doesn't have that. It is what it is. As I look in your background, I love your twos. You have your circles going.
Yeah.
And I know you're decorative.
Circle 1, circle 2
has been. Yeah. You got your yin and yang.
Yeah, and even reflecting on famous musicians and this topic here, we both discovered in some research of the 10 Bulls this week that John Cage, a well-known composer, he famously has a piece called, I think it's called 423, where it's 4 minutes and 23 seconds of silence, and he got into an abstract element of they would do some pianos with not tempered. It was I can't remember the name of the types of pianos, but they were some kind of adjusted pianos where they'd put screws in between certain piano strings. So when you hit it intentionally, that note was written because there's going to be a screw on that string, and it's going to shake the noise in a different way, and it was just intentionally. In an aspect of the White Album, our album cover is going to be no album cover. He had done that with, my piece of music is going to be no pieces of music, which he was in a way a Picasso. I mean, he could already do the form as a classical pianist and had written as a serious composer, and then over time got into these abstract elements of many things, even just making music that looked good on page as notation of music as a visual art form, and then having people play the designs he basically wrote, and that was a performance, and it was very avant-garde, very of the day, and out there, and not of the day, but in a way there was that 50s, 60s, 70s, you start seeing kind of from the Kerouacs, all the way through to psychedelia, and until Reagan gets back in office or whatever, So it's like
and ruins it.
Say no to drugs. Say no to drugs, kids. But
say that.
But so one thing we both discovered is that John Cage had done work on this, and we were both excited to look up. Hey,
nothing.
Yeah.
Look up nothing.
And as fate would have it, there wasn't a musical piece, it seems, that was directly inspired, although apparently the nothingness was part of these ancient stories here, is something that he obviously was impacted by. But he did a visual series of and speaking of on it, his is the 10 ox or whatever, it's How much differential do we have between ox and bull? Or
I just think it's a language. I mean, I've been discussing this with a monastic, but we've been dealing with bulls and the papal bull and what these linguistic terms mean, and do they cross? Is there a connection between what somebody says? You know how you'll know a word will have two different meanings, and that doesn't even mean the same thing, and then but does it? And so we've been discussing that. So I think the ox and the bull is
synonymous.
I still feel where it's coming from. Yeah, they're synonymous. Yeah, and coming from one language and then coming from another, and then they've got to our language in two different forms. And I'm sure any linguistic that's listening that wants to say I'm completely off base,
jumping through
feel
the screen
free
right
to
now,
disagree.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, just feel free to
comment
disagree.
below, yeah.
Yeah, please, let's get a listener. All right. Now, yeah, just to know, I'm perfectly willing to hear you out, and you're probably wrong. It's besides that, it's because there is none when we're not right either. So we're just we're singing as we're speaking.
Yeah, these are all lyrics. And so moving into the next frame here, we're coming out of the nothingness. How do you feel the next piece of the puzzle here in the story?
It's this return. So when the Rhine rises, or the waters of rise, and the cleansing of the world comes, or of life, and we return to this new heaven and new earth, or we're returning to nature now. We've gone through the cycle. So we were in this circle of oneness. Then we went through a journey that we returned back to this oneness. Life isn't going anywhere in that sense. It's not that we're not doing anything, and it's not that it's not alive. It's just you've returned to a different state. So now you're back in, but you're purified in a way.
Well, and you mentioned the return to oneness. I mean, for those people, this is our logo for our podcast. This is a friendly reminder. But this logo here is the logo you had me track down for our beautiful performance today on YouTube Live. Thank you for watching. But yes. It is a circle, and it is a return to oneness, and this is the logo that's synonymous with this story. So I think that's just kind of a perfect element of it.
Yeah.
But then back, now I'm just having fun like a weather girl. Back to the tree.
Yes.
And
like it.
And again, the elements.
Next
as
time,
well.
Next time something a little bit more revealing would be nice, Wes.
Hey, I'm not just a piece
just
of
try
meat.
A little hard. Try a little harder. We need to see a little bit.
And you had mentioned a tree previously, and here in this particular rendition, which again, there are hundreds of renditions of this, not only John Cage's and John Lennon's, but also this tree right here.
Yeah. Yes. And we return now from when our additional one, we had the human, we had the child in here with this environment inside the tree, and now we have no child, we have no bull, we have no heaven. We're back into this state of the recreation, or not even a recreation, as if we went through something. We just are now into the land of Amitabha. It's without all of the glitz and glamour, the drama of all the maidens and all that. We're kind of in this Eden, this perfect place where doctrine still sits, and it was still there, and it had been there periodically as we were going through the journey. The trees are constantly the consistent thematic element that's going through as the child, or as we are walking through these stages of development, or better yet, of enlightenment. So we're receiving the doctrine. We're not going as in a Western story. We're not going to get something. As we see in this story, the endings are much different, rather than this kind of achievement with a trophy, or now I'm in this ultimate palace. In this one, we've now returned to the earth and back into a state where we're, it is just what it is. It's nothing more. We don't have anything that we have to kind of resolve in order to create the mysticism that's already there. The great conspiracy that we've been trying to figure out is really, it's already there. The connection's already there. The tree sits there as the wisdom symbol for us. The tree will be there. If you wish to go under it and have its kind of its energy placed upon you, you can have the enlightenment. So we don't need any of the others. We don't. It's just reaffirming that very fundamental thing, that anything that necessary is not needed, and then we can move from there, and we move to that. In this story, we'll move to the final, which is the 10th phase. But in other stories, the circle, or this 8th sphere, is sometimes at the 10th sphere. Because in a way, the 10th is in our numeric way, that we start from 1 to 10. That is the octave. And when you do it from, from 0 to 8, you're now at a different kind of way of looking at the principles. You're going from 0 to 8, and that's blocking the 2, where the Zen kind of, the circle of infinity is, or this great circle of life starts at 0, and then we have the 2 circles. So we went through the division of life only to rediscover that the connection, or that meeting point in the 8th sphere, is where we are. And we're going through this mindful kind of labyrinth that we can't seem to get out of, but that the circles are there. So it's the 2 and 1, and they're connected. The 9, of course, being the symbol, like we just saw, of the plurality of life, the infinite, many different things, all the leaves on the tree. So we want to go out and look at one of the leaves and say that that's life, or do you want to go to the other one? Then you go to the other one, and then you take those 2 leaves and you see, okay, well, here's the similarities and here's the differences. And then, okay, well, go to the next leaf, and there's a million leaves, just like your lifespan. There's millions and billions of lifespans. You have to go through to, that's that idea of this, this fertility of life, this infinite amount of things in the eternal. So now we're at the 0 and the 9, these 2 numbers that, although it seems like there's a lot and there's difference, it's really just one thing, and this flows through it. And then as we're going to the 10th, the reaffirming of the blocking, you go from 1 or 0, then 1, and now you're going 1, 0. So you've now blocked this whole thing within these 2 0 points. And now you have 10, which reduces back to 1. Now we're going into an octave of a new, we're just doing the same thing, and we can reduce that.
Similar to clickbait
we have now
articles.
the mendicant.
Clickbait articles,
Love it.
10 aging Hollywood men you won't believe how they look now. No, that's not what you were saying.
Yeah. No, I'm actually, the number 9 is just in this oblivion of I can't eat. I wake up and I'm like, and Wesley makes me go on to Instagram, try to get you people to follow.
Yeah, follow us on
and
Instagram,
I can't even
guys.
get. That's called a segue. Learn that. I'm trying to go through. It's like, get on there, and it flashes. And of course, my taste in women are just like, that's what's. So I get all this clickbait
filters. Yeah.
Girls, keep taking your clothes almost off. But anyway. So I just can't concentrate. And then you have is, you say something and your phone. I mean, I don't know what I'm dreaming at night, but I'm talking in my sleep because. Listening, and then it's like this new hat I want to buy because it's going to get steaming hot. And then you're like, next thing you know, an hour goes by and you're like, what was I supposed to do? You guys are geniuses.
The 10 bulls. Oh yes, the 10 bulls.
Oh yeah, 10 bulls. I was supposed to work, and last night I didn't do it because of Instagram. And of course I bash all these people, oh, how could you watch television?
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Now
you're
it's just
such
in
a
your
tool.
in your hand.
Yeah. Now I'm just in my phone. Yeah. And I'm like, because now I just do it on there.
And all of that struggle kind of is represented here in the 10th frame,
Yes.
which I'll throw to now.
Yep.
And this variation, like you said, in others, it is the
Yeah.
empty frame
It's,
here.
yeah.
And this one here, we have the, the hobo sage with a bag
I
on
love
his
it.
back.
That's what he said, guys. So all you guys, the Zen people, you get him for that, calling him a hobo. Yeah, the mendicant. Now I'm happy. I'm fat. I'm older. I don't have to, and in other versions it's different, but
Sure.
the symbol of the jovialness
Right.
of simplicity and knowing you're above, you've overcome the separateness. You've overcome the ambitions of life. You're just living, ironically, like the bull. Now happy, as the bull was, happy and running, and you wanted to yoke it, you wanted to tie it, you wanted to bind it and use its energy. Now you are the bull. You're happy and giggling and your shirt's hanging out and you need to work out a little bit more. And you don't really care.
Is this all an intervention to get me to keep working out?
Just keep playing basketball.
That's right. Play basketball one week.
You look great. I mean, I think your face looks great with a little weight. I mean, usually friends say that to you. So I don't know how you want to take that. I think you look great. I don't really think he's gaining any weight, but I think what he is, he moved
below,
back there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
now,
fried chicken and sausage
he's getting a little
biscuits.
vain.
Have got me there.
Yes, I know. It'll do it to you. I lived in the South. He keeps trying to tell me, yeah, move here. I said, I won't be. I got to buy a whole new wardrobe. Yeah, that food's too good. I don't have the wherewithal to say no. I got to keep myself in a different environment.
Well, yeah. I mean, this has been a pretty successful dip into new medium. There's a couple of little bugs we'll tweak as we go, but I really enjoyed this presentation. It was a great idea for episode from you. Thank you very much.
No.
And if anyone who is listening and watches this in the future or in the present could follow us on Instagram, that's at Mystic Cowboy. The C from Mystic is also the C from Cowboy. There's one C, so Mystic Cowboy. And we got hit songs coming. We got all kinds of stuff we're trying to do out here.
We're working on that song. I wanted to bring that up, and so we'll be completing that soon.
We're a whole media empire.
We'll give our rations. Oh yeah, it's going to be, just get in. When you get in early, you look like you're a genius. And that's the way I live. Try to live my life. Anyway, hit us up. Please do the Instagram, because I got to sit there and then follow a bunch of people. Just hit follow. Because I'm ethically inclined not to just get the app, so that I'll get all of you to be our followers. And plus I don't want to get canceled. So the more you do this, the more you're saving my thumbs by not just hitting every follow.
Saving the thumbs and also, preventing you from getting canceled is basically my only goal in life. Now, here, real quick, let's go through the 10 bulls again.
At least until, do you get residuals for this thing? Do we get residuals?
I can't even spell.
He's just got to
residuals.
get me to residual.
Yeah,
because he gets everything if I die. So he just got to get me to the mailbox money.
Oh boy! All right, cutting into just I'm going to zoom in on just the story here, and I'm going to go through kind of rapid fire back to the 10 bulls. Ready? Drum roll, please. Here we go. All right, here's the beginning. We have the child walking through with a stick. Am I failing the exam?
I love it. I love it.
Then we have the child. Now, basically, I mean, it's almost, looking back at it, is coming from the shore up into a mountain landscape where there are these trees and other elements. And then now it's kind of maybe getting further along. You see more of a forest kind of element, still on its with its walking stick, moving through the child. And then and interesting, here's some throwback to something I missed before. The sun is in the first, appears here in the fourth circle, where we are sneaking up on the bull and kind of here's our quest to assert ourselves or the inquisitive nature that will become into the next slide. Here towards the middle of them, we're lassoing the bull and trying to kind of tame nature and the elements. And then seems like the next is it mission accomplished? We have the we have
the bull.
Yeah, the bull is now our walking companion, and shortly after that, we're so one with the bull. We're riding like a pet, and we're playing music and frolicking essentially with what was once difficult to overcome. And now, I also wonder if maybe the earlier sun is rising, and here we are, sun setting at the end of the day, and we're taking the siesta or the the winding down your evening as the sun there's beating down on our shelter, and then the nothingness. Oops, I skipped by that faster than intended. The nothingness kind of here's your Zen moment, your moment of Zen. And then we have the tree kind of returning back to life, without bull or child, and the passing of time that kind of leads us into the sage, our happy hobo, our wise hobo here, Zen and beautiful and big smile. Also seems like I'll zoom in on the smile on the belly, and a lot of resemblance between me and this one here. Since I've moved to Georgia.
He is jovial, everybody. He is very jovial.
And then just kind of skipping through the rest of the here's the text. And check that out again on the New York Metropolitan website. And what a lovely dip into new media here, buddy. I'm really pleased with it. I had a great time.
Man, I'm so happy. I did too.
Great
As always, we could be doing nothing and we have a good time, but you guys get to enjoy it. Yeah. We're just doing it for you guys. We're gonna do this anyway.
That's right, folks. So stay tuned, and if you don't know what our logo is, here it is on the way out. And God bless, Godspeed, and let's see. I'm trying to see if there's a. You know what I want to do? I wanted to get let's see. I'm gonna try to attach the theme song here on the way out. So all the best, America, and say la vie.
Hasta la vista.